Alright, hey, back. I am doing a showcase for a fire Bowzon. I have a character ready. This is not going to be a walkthrough or anything, so this is kind of end game gear. Let's take a look at how it performs and gear options and the stat and skill allocations. And let's hop in. This is my online character. For those who have watched my previous video, not that I'm trying to become a series maker or anything, but this is actually the same character that I used to make my Zeal Zon. Yeah, I said that right. It is using the Passion rune word, and I put it in a Highland blade, so there's only one Zon Highlander Zealer. It's a bad joke right there. It's not viable at all, but it was a lot of fun to build. But I have since respec'd it to an actual Amazon build. So the fire arrow, exploding arrow, or just fire Bowzon, I don't think it's talked as much as physical Bowzons or freezing arrow Bowzons, but I think it's still just as powerful, maybe even more powerful. The focus here will be on this side of the skill tree instead of the center path for physical and the left path for cold. So it's going to be a mix of kind of caster type equipment and gear, as well as physical Bowzon. You want to increase your attack speed attributes, and obviously still have some resists and some other unique modifiers. So let's just go ahead and get started with the basic stuff. Stats, like most characters, just have enough points into strength, dexterity for your gear. The kind of downside of Amazons or any builds that use dexterity requirement items is that you will have less vitality and health because you need to put points into dexterity. That also goes in the case of characters who want to reach max block. You will have less life because you will have to put hard points into dexterity for your block percentage. But for us, obviously we're not blocking, but the bows that we use do require a fair bit of dexterity, as you can see from the matriarchal bow. That's 187. So there's some over points from gear and other items, but I'm not going to respec just so it could land perfectly. I do like to change gear up and experiment, so just a little bit of leeway here. And then being a level 88, all my points go into vitality. That's not going into strength of dex, nothing in energy. We'll go over some of these stats in here a little bit later once we talk about gear. But skills, like I said previously, you will be maxing the 3 skills on the right. So fire arrow, exploding arrow, and immolation arrow. The skills you will be using to attack are exploding arrow and immolation arrow. Fire arrow is purely used for synergies. It's just better to use exploding versus fire. You get more direct damage and you get area effect. So there's really no reason to use fire arrow. Minus, the converts 71% to elemental damage. We're not really going for physical bow damage. So, it may be a possibility if you have something crazy like a wind force and you have a ton of physical damage, which will add to your single target fire damage here. In the middle kind of lane of the bow and crossbow tree, 1 point into everything until strafe. You're not going to put any points into these skills, but they are used. Also on the left side, though we are not focusing on cold, it is still nice to have the utility of freezing arrow. Cold arrow, I think, is just cold damage, and then ice arrow actually freezes them in addition to applying cold damage.
And then freezing is that plus area of effect. So it's very nice. There's definitely builds that focus just on freezing arrow. For passive and magic, like almost every single Amazon build, you're going to put almost 1 point into every one of these. The important ones to kind of pump up are penetrate, some amount of points into pierce. You do want to get it to around 70-ish% chance, including plus skills from gear. And then Valkyrie is always nice. Once you get past my level, you have, like, you can see here that I haven't even used the skill point yet. Having 1 point into Valk is great, and then I put a couple in here just to kind of bump up the percentage. It never hurts. You won't get into diminishing returns until like well into the level 10s and kind of higher levels. We're currently at level 8 with 2 hard points here. So each skill point 2%. That's not bad. Yeah, so this tree, or this build, actually uses not a lot of skill points. It's definitely, well, obviously, Javelin, Spear, don't put any points, you're not using anything here. But you're looking at 10 points, plus a little bit more here, not even 20. And then 60 points for your max skills, and then, another 7 here. So you're going to have a lot of empty skill points, so it's up to really the user to, I want to be a little bit more defensive, I want to pump here, I want to have a little bit better attack rating, or I want to build maybe a more viable Valkyrie, whatever you want, but just make sure that these 3 are maxed first. So, onto the gear. The gear is very unique, and it's going to be expensive, at least at kind of end game and the way I prefer it. So the one weapon that is rarely seen, but I found that after I made this, it really improved the effectiveness of this build. It's the Phoenix rune word in a bow. So I chose the matriarchal bow because it has the quickest attack speed. The Grand Matron bow has more physical damage, but we are a fire Bowzon, so a lot of our damage, most of our damage, is actually fire damage. So the more quickly we can attack, the higher our DPS. So with the matriarchal bow, I think there's a little bit higher dexterity than Grand Matron bow, and lower strength, and then vice versa for Grand Matron. But I do also like the look of this bow a little bit better. Phoenix is also a very end game rune word. Every single rune is high and very valued. With the Vex, you probably get more mileage with a Hodo, but you can have 2 Hodos in here, really, and a low, and obviously the jaw. Thankfully, the rolls on this rune word isn't that important. The most important stat on this rune word is the negative 28% to enemy fire resistance. Thankfully, that is a static roll, so it'll always be 28%. The varying stats will be enhanced damage and the level for redemption aura. I kind of forgot the rolls of the aura, but level 12 redemption aura has been totally fine. It's also really important to get a base bow that has +3 to bow and crossbow. So that obviously doesn't come with Phoenix, so you'll have to find a 4-socketed Amazon bow, because having plus skills increases your damage for your fire, exploding arrow, and immolation arrow. The ignores target's defense is actually very nice. It kind of counteracts the need for AR, and you'll see that even for bosses, your exploding arrow and your immolation effect will still proc, even if for some reason you don't have any AR and you miss the boss, you will still get that effect.
So things like mana, Deadly Strike, not really too effective, but you know it's there. I'll take it. The Redemption Aura, fantastic. One of the problems with having elemental bosons is mana. Unlike physical, which you have plenty of physical damage to leech, you don't have really much physical damage and mana leech or health leech for that matter. So you're always chugging potions or doing maybe having insights for your mercenary, but that Redemption Aura, as you'll see, mana becomes a complete non-issue, which is just fantastic. So onto my other gear, and these, I won't mouse over my armor yet because that is an insane armor. The helm, Flickering Flame. I've kind of experimented with some other types of helms, but I find that this is just the best for fire builds in general. +3 to fire skills. That will include the fire arrows. It won't put plus skills into things like multiple shot because that's not considered a fire skill. So things like, you know, Firestorm or like Armageddon from the Druid, those are fire skills. So it's a very unique type of attribute. Mage Fist also has a similar attribute, +1 to fire skills, I think. So this is perfect. This directly is essentially plus skills for our damage. And again, this also has the very important negative percentage to enemy fire resistance. This one rolled a 13. The range is 10 to 15. And I think the aura is also 4 to 8. This one rolled imperfectly at 4. So, you know, it's a fantastic helm, but it is another Vex, and that's just really difficult to like re-roll. If you have Vexes, absolutely go for it. If you get something like level 4 and 10 negative enemy fire resistance, absolutely go for it. The worst case is stays the same. That's unlucky. But the resistances you get from level 4 all the way to level 8 resist fire is not bad. I forgot the numbers, but if you look at my character screen, with the aura, I only have 65. I'm not capped yet. So I'm sure if this rolled a level 6, 7, or 8, I could be capped for fire res. And this is with the Sunder. Luckily I have a negative 71 here. Amulet is not supposed to be Amara's. Hold on. I think I was playing around with some gear. So, High Lords. High Lords, +1 skills. Like I said before, this is like a perfect amulet for this. This has kind of caster plus skills, and also has increased attack speed. You know, the lightning damage, okay. Deadly Strike, actually not very needed for this build, because we are focused on fire damage. Lightning resist, always helpful. You know, attacker takes lightning damage, whatever. Excellent amulet. So gloves are also interchangeable with other gloves as long as you have the 20% increased attack speed. That's very important to break attack frames. I'll mention that once I go through all the gear. The reason I chose this is, well, it is a fire-themed gauntlet. 2% chance to cast level 10 enchant. You're going to be proccing that all the time with all the arrows that you shoot. I forgot the numbers you get for a level 10 enchant, but you get attack rating and you get flat fire damage, and those are amazing. I don't think it's a lot. I actually think it's less than the gloves themselves, 13 to 46. It's quite small without any kind of synergies, but it's welcome. The back to the gloves adds 13 to 46 fire damage. That is excellent. The reason flat fire damage is really good for this build is that the skill Exploding Arrow I'm actually not sure about Immolation Arrow, but at least Exploding Arrow, your fire damage adds to the arrows you shoot. So when an exploding arrow hits a target, it will actually, have the skill fire damage, and then also adds whatever you have on your equipment, your charms, and then once you factor in pierce, and once your arrow pierces through enemies, then you're lining up just an exploding chain of fire damage. So this 13 to 46 is fantastic. That also coupled with, the negative percentage of enemy fire resistance, that's actually a lot higher than what it shows here in the field. Fire resist is always good, because of your fire sunder. Ravenfrost, I almost always use a Ravenfrost on Amazons, just because usually the gear has pretty high dexterity requirements. Ravenfrost adds important attack rating, adds cold damage, so you don't have to worry about finding a source of cold damage if you want to have cold effects. Dexterity, mana, always helpful. And then obviously cold absorb and cannot be frozen. This one rolled pretty nice. The maximum roll for attack rating is 250, and for dexterity is 20, I believe. So this is a pretty good ring. Razor Tail. So this is purely used for 33% piercing attack, and quite a number of builds have that. This with your pierce or piercing, whatever the skill's called, pierce, is now over 100%. So every single arrow that you fire will pierce through enemies, and that's very important to maximize your exploding arrow and immolation arrow effects. The dexterity is also nice. We do have to hit 187. This ring is good for now. I like it because it has all resists. The minimum damage and lifesteal is whatever, but it has 18 strength, which is fantastic. I think the max is 20, maybe even 25. I think it's 20, so it helps. Boots also can be interchangeable, but these are dual res boots. So we have the maximum 30% run walk, the 10% faster hit recovery, and then a little bit of dex and some resistances. So that's a good pair of boots. Now on to the armor. This is probably going to be one of the most expensive things in the last piece you'll get in a build like this, if you want it perfect. The base itself is a jeweler's diamond mail of stability. This is also why I pick up every single magic, I think exceptional can spawn this as well. So exceptional and elite armor. What this has is 4 open sockets and 24% faster hit recovery. For your more PvP and kind of super min-maxing, a lot of people also want jeweler's armor of the whale, I think it's called, and that's plus 100 life with max roll, and that's just insanely expensive. But don't really want to try to get that item. That's insane. I've never had that drop. I think I've had jeweler's armor of the squid before. But anyway, fast hit recovery also kind of important. You are firing a lot of arrows and you are attacking from a distance, so it's not too important, but it is definitely important once you get swarmed for ranged enemies like souls and those pesky succubi that can stun lock you. So having good faster hit recovery frames, I'll go into frames. I think it's 52 is a good level for this particular build and items. So this 24% definitely helps. So obviously this is socketed with 4 jewels and 4 fire facets. Perfect fire facets, in fact. These are all 5/5. So with 4 of them,
we're subtracting 20 from enemy fire resistance and also adding 20 to our exploding arrow and immolation arrow. So this armor is just fantastic. I love it. Definitely the probably the last piece and most expensive component of this build. On my swap, this is a non-ladder character, but you know this is actually a ladder rune word that carried over. I have hustle. The reason I have hustle on a bow is purely to proc the burst of speed. I actually don't use this, you know, to attack. It does attack quite quickly, especially with the fanaticism aura. But you know, every 3 minutes or so, I switch to this and I proc burst of speed. The burst of speed, level 1, is actually very helpful. It adds 23% faster run walk and 21%. Excuse me. Increased attack speed. That is calculated differently. So off weapon IAS is different than like a skill like fanaticism or burst of speed, or so the buffs. So it is only 21%, but you'll see. Actually, you can't see, but it does increase my attack frames fairly significantly. And then I'll just go over charms real quick. This is a very nice charm I found. 1528, just to get my resists up, you know. The primary charms you will be getting will be the +1 to bow and crossbow skills. This adds direct damage, just like a sorceress. This adds quite a significant amount to your damage. They're also fairly cheap in the online marketplace, because bow and crossbow is obviously not as desired as, say, like a lightning skiller for a sorceress. So typically you could get these with less trade value, or with items with less trade value. So I have a 35 and a 33. I think I actually found the 33 one. Faster hit recovery. This is a fantastic pairing. I love these skillers plus FHR. They're just fantastic to kind of hit breakpoints if you don't have the gear to do so. And then my Fire Thunder, 71, nearly perfect. That's a crazy roll on stats, but it's only 5% experience gain, so you know, I'm not trying to reach level 99 here, but I will take an 1820 any day. This is also a crazy roll I found on one of my Ubers. 1918. Wow, this character is just stacked. I kind of forgot. +2 is the max for the stats, so this is a perfect strength all res charm. Another 5. Faster hit recovery, a little bit of attack rating, faster hit recovery. This was just a good charm. I really love this charm. If I could, I would get a full inventory of these charms. I think the fire damage is maxed, or nearly maxed, and then the lightning could be a lot higher, but it's just nice to have it there. But a stash or inventory full of this will really boost up your damage. Alright, so kind of going over attack speed. We'll get to some examples and battles shortly. So with the matriarchal bow, unfortunately there's no IAS on the weapon, so we're stuck with 20 IAS and 20 here, so that's a grand total of 40. That means you hit 10 frames per attack. So you can take a look here. This is what 10 frames looks like. Okay, so let's proc my burst of speed. There we go. You can already see that you're moving a lot quicker. And this is with burst of speed, you actually reach 8 frames And that's fantastic. So this is 8 frames. This is 2 frames quicker with just level 1 burst of speed, and that's quite amazing. Even though it's only 21%, but that is essentially 21% AAS on the weapon. I think the max attack frames for an Amazon is 7, so you're very much near the top of attack speed. So, I know we're in hell and I'm just using freezing arrow. It's not even my main skill, but it's kind of kicking ass. So, let's go to Act 4 with some fire immunes. So, exploding arrow, immolation arrow. The numbers aren't crazy, especially for those who have seen numbers on like a enchant sorceress with a crossbow. Those numbers are insanely large. So that's kind of a direct competitor to this build, but I actually still enjoy playing a fire Bowzon. You're both using exploding arrow, but Amazon has other upsides. You know, the Amazon has your dodge, avoids, and your 100% pierce, even though technically the sorceress has 99%. So we beat the sorceress by 1%. There's definitely faster attack speed from the Amazon. We get a little bit of tanking with the Valkyrie. And overall, I guess it still works. So this is only 2,000, 2,500 fire damage exploding, and then the arrow impact will do 400 to 1,000. And then if you look at Immolation arrow, higher numbers, but there's a cooldown. But my god, it's like an ICBM. This thing just it's so effective. So in total, if you look at the stats, 20% fire skill damage, so you'll see that reflected in the damage up here. But the negative 61% is just, it's so high. That's an insane amount of negative enemy fire resistance for an Amazon. And that's only possible because of, number one, the Phoenix, very expensive. Flickering Flame, not as expensive, obviously, but still, it's a Vex. And I don't think it's ladder only. It's definitely non-ladder now, I think. So I could still do that, re-roll it. And then this is just kind of crazy. So you should probably prioritize, if you're hunting for facets, the negative enemy fire resistances, because that will effectively increase your damage done to enemies more so than just increasing your fire skill damage. So that's kind of true for a lot of builds, because monsters, so you can see here that it's just a lot slower without my level 1 burst of speed. Okay, there you go. There it goes. Yeah, this is just so much quicker. The Immolation arrow, like, rarely does a normal monster survive a hit. It's basically a one hit kill kind of thing. And it pierces. So if you have like a big group of enemies, you're just one-shotting the entire group. And you get some nice damage over time. It's not very high, but it's still nice to have some damage. So these are actually fire immunes. So I do have a mercenary. Probably see that he has conviction, so there's an affinity. The level 12 conviction aura, I think, is negative 85 enemy resistances, and then when you're breaking immunities, well, it gets kind of complicated because I have Sunder. But I still think conviction works at 20%. So that's still like negative 18-ish enemy resistances for these Doom Knights in Act 4. And any other fire immunes. But if they're not immune from the get-go, negative 85 when they have the Conviction Aura, plus negative 61 from you. I mean, if the enemy has zero fire resists, you're doing double damage. And even if they have really high fire resists, like 80, you're at negative 60% doing fire damage to them. And that's just that's really high. So this number is kind of like a cold source almost, is a little bit misleading because you're piercing through so much of the resistances. Like Venom Lords are immune to fire. With my Sunder Charm and the Conviction Aura. I gotta proc my first speed again. So this is obviously players 1, because I'm online. There's only one person here, but you can see the kill streak is just kind of crazy. So, this is with gear that really optimizes fire resists, or negative fire resists.
Good morning.
I can even play around with some other things. So, with my hustle and swap, if you decide to actually not get this, or have yet to get this, because this is a insanely difficult gear to get, the hustle armor is actually quite nice as well. Obviously, you're gonna do a lot less fire damage, but you're gonna hit your max attack speed without hustle, or sorry, without the burst of speed. Not only that, you actually don't even need to proc burst of speed, because even with this setup right here, the Phoenix bow and Phoenix and the matriarchal, 40%. And then 40% here with insane faster run walk. You hit 7 frames for attack, and that's extremely quick, which then allows you to increase your bulk. So a little CTA here, 6-2, which is all right. I don't have enough strength for a spirit, so that's why I'm using lidless. And I even have a hotkey. Cool. So you'll do less damage, but you'll definitely get more bulk because you have a CTA. And honestly, your DPS may be comparable because you're actually attacking at max at 7. And you can see how quickly I attack. But for fire immunes, you're gonna, see that takes a little bit longer because I mean, you're still killing quite quickly. But against these fire immunes, you're gonna take a little bit longer. But this is not slow in any way. Oh, hello. So even without Phoenix, which I think is such a character or build defining weapon, the Phoenix. This is still like really good. Like fire arrows, I don't know why people sleep on it so much. I have a Wind Force here. This is actually a really nice roll of 8% mana. I'll socket it eventually. Give me some strength here. For some other items, you just see here. I just like to play around with different setups. I'll even use a Wind Force. I even take the Flickering Flame off. So I have no enemy fire resists. I think I'll... Ooh. Well, this is with the Conviction Aura from the Merc, so I'm still killing pretty good speed. Definitely need my burst of speed. Yeah. This is still a perfectly viable build. I have insane mana issues because I don't have Redemption Aura. But that is why I love the Phoenix Bow so much. It increases our damage and solves our mana issue. So let me actually, to end this video, because I don't want to go on for too long, I'm going to go into a higher count game. Are there people playing? Duels? Ugh. Okay. Torches? Alright, so this will be a P4 game. It does take longer. So you want to play a little bit more, let's line some enemies up instead of just blasting one enemy with one arrow. Take advantage of the pierce. But enemies that are not fire resistance, that was a dead end, is going to be taken down still very quickly. It's just those fire immune enemies. It's still going to take longer, obviously with more player count, but yeah, this build is just really good. I love it. Alright, and that is that build. I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you guys maybe found some inspiration to try this character. It's just a lot of fun. Clearly I haven't been playing that much because my character's only level 88, but it's just, kind of, I wouldn't even say it's off meta, but it's just fun making builds that are completely viable, but a little bit more uncommon. So, thanks for listening, and I'll talk to y'all later.